Hi everyone, welcome back to another crochet tutorial. Today we are going to be making this yummy hamburger. This one is great for fast food lovers and can be a great crochet gift. Let's start with going through the materials you need for this mini crochet project. You will need 5 different colors of yarn. I'm using red, dark khaki, beige, emerald green and bright yellow. You will also need your usual crochet kit. I'm using the 3.0mm hook plus the usual, so your yarn needle, yarn snips and the stitch markers. And to put everything together, I'll be using a glue gun. If you want to know where I get all my crochet supplies, I've provided a link in the description below. Before diving into the crochet patterns, I would like to first do a quick run through of the whole Hamburger Anatomy. What you're seeing right now is the finished product. The hamburger that we're making today consists of 6 different parts. For the buns, we have the top layer and the bottom layer. And from the bottom layer of the bun stacking up, we have the meat, the tomato, the lettuce, and the cheese. Excluding the cheese and the lettuce, the crochet pattern for the buns, tomato, and the meat is pretty similar. And to make this crochet tutorial a little more exciting, the sequence I'm going to crochet is exactly like how we're going to make a hamburger in real life. First, we're going to prep the buns for the hamburger, starting with the top layer. Using the beige color yarn, we're going to start off by doing a magic ring and do 6 single crochet. If you have been watching my crochet tutorials, you will know that it is my habit to put a stitch marker on the first and the last stitch of every row, and so this is what I will be doing for this too. To end the row, do a slip stitch. For row 2 to 5, we're going to do an increase when we up every row. So for the second row now, we're going to do 6 increases and end off with a slip stitch. For the third row, we're going to do an increase again, so do a single crochet followed by an increase and repeat this for 6 times and then end off the row with a slip stitch. For the 4th row, we're going to do a single crochet and increase followed by a single crochet, and we're going to repeat this pattern for 6 times and again end off the row with a slip stitch. For the 5th row, we're going to do an increase again, crochet 3 single crochets followed by an increase, and repeat this for 6 times and then end off with a slip stitch. For the 6th and 7th row, there will be no increase or decrease. Just do 30 single crochets for the entire row and end with a slip stitch. For the 8th row, we're gonna work on the back loop only. So do 1 single crochet followed by a decrease and repeat this till you finish the row and end with a slip stitch. For the 9th row, we're gonna continue decreasing. This time do 2 single crochet first followed by a decrease and again repeat this till you finish the row and end with a slip stitch. For our last row, we're gonna do 1 final decrease. So do 1 single crochet first followed by a decrease and repeat till you finish the row. When you reach the end of the row, do not slip stitch, instead cut off the yarn and leave a long tail for sewing. To close up the last row, we are basically going to do a manual crochet stitch so the finishing looks clean. What you're going to do first is to thread the yarn through the yarn needle. Then, you are going to find the first stitch of that row and thread through both the loops. Then, you are going back to your last stitch and thread through only the back loop. Go to tighten. Before cutting off the excess yarn, my usual habit is to hide them first and then use the yarn snip to cut it off. But for this case, I'm just hiding the yarn in the bun since it won't be seen after we glue the hamburger together. We'll be repeating this method for all the ingredients so we can have the nice finish. If this is too fast, feel free to rewatch it at a slower pace. Next, we are going to prep the bottom layer of the bun. For this, the crochet pattern for row 1 to 4 is exactly the same as the top layer of the bun. So we are going to repeat that again and I'm going to meet up with you when we start row 5. Now, for row 5, we're going to work on the back loop only, no decrease, no increase, just 24 single crochet on the back loop. Once you reach the last stitch, do not slip stitch. Instead, cut off the excess yarn. And to close up the row, we are going to do what we did for the top layer and do the manual crochet stitch method so we can have the clean finishing look. Now let's prep the meat. The meat consists of only 5 rows and they are the exact same crochet pattern as the top layer of the bun, just using a different color. The only difference is that when you're closing up the last row, which is the 5th row, you don't do a slip stitch, you do the manual crochet stitch to have the nice finishing look. for the tomato, this is super simple. Repeat exactly what you did for the meat, just in the red color yarn. Next, for the lettuce, we are going to switch to the green color yarn. To start off, we are going to do a magic ring followed by 15 half double crochet and end the row with a slip stitch. Then we are gonna do 15 half double crochet increases in the second row and again end with a slip stitch. For the third row, this is where we are going to crochet the wiggly effect so that it mimics lettuce. So for every stitch, we are going to do 3 chains followed by a single crochet. So 3 chains and then a single crochet. We're going to repeat this 15 times basically till you finish the entire row. And then again, same as the bun, the meat and the tomato, we are going to close off the row with the manual crochet stitch method that I have shown you for that clean finishing look. Moving on to our last ingredient, the cheese. We are gonna use the yellow yarn and we are gonna start by doing 6 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then go back 2 chains, and in the second stitch, we are gonna do 5 single crochet. And this will form your row number 1. For row 2 to 5, you're gonna continue doing the same number of stitches. For that nice clean look, I'm gonna share a trick I use. To start off row 2, do a chain first and flip the cheese. Skip 1 stitch and crochet 4 single crochet. And because we need 5 single crochet per row, I will crochet another single crochet in the last stitch. Then for row 3, it's the same thing. Do a chain first and flip the cheese. Skip 1 stitch and crochet 4 single crochet. For the 5th single crochet, we are going to crochet on the previous layer. Repeat this until you have 5 rows. Now we are going to crochet the borders of the cheese from row 6 to 8. For row 6, this is the rule of thumb. The sides will take up 3 single crochet, and when you reach the corners, do 3 single crochet in a single stitch, so it turns nicely. For row 7, it's the same. When you reach the corners, do 3 single crochet in a single stitch, and for the sides, they take up 5 single crochet. For the last row, the corners remains at 3 single crochet in a single stitch, and for the sides, it is now 7 single crochet. To close off the last row, we are gonna do the manual crochet stitch method again to have the clean finishing look. Now that we have all the ingredients prepped and ready to go, all we have to do is stack them up from bottom to top. I'm using the glue gun here to glue all the ingredients together. What I like to do is to avoid gluing near the borders in case the glue comes out and it will just looks bad, so I focus my efforts in the middle. Glue gun is pretty strong, so you don't have to worry about it falling off. And ta-da! The burger is ready to be gobbled up. You can gift it like this or add a keychain to make it a back charm. And that's it. Hope you love making this fun little crochet project and let me know in the comments what you would love to see next. Thanks for watching!